Welcome back to the Fruitful Three Show, where we will dive deep into the biggest myths, trends, and truths shaking up the business world today in the Gen Z era. I'm Isaiah, joined by my awesome co-host and brother, Levi. Today we are tackling a hot topic. Is Gen Z lazy, or are we just getting it all wrong?
That's right. There's been a lot of buzz lately about how businesses perceive Gen Z. Terms like lazy, entitled, and difficult to work with are thrown around, but there is more to this story. Let's break it down.
And just a fun fact before we do the intro, 75% of managers think Gen Z are hard to work with, but we are here to show why this might be not be one about laziness at all. Instead, about how the modern workforce is changing and Gen Z might be leading that change.
We're going to do a weekly recap on sports. And while I was doing the weekly recap, I happened to realize that 9/11 was also this week. And I totally... As a military member myself, I should have been more alert on this topic, but I kind of spaced it off with everything going on. But the celebration of 9/11, it's been 23 years now. It was 2001.
So 23.
Yeah, 23 years now since 9/11 happened. This is also a good thing to kind of blend in with this whole thing, because we are talking about like different generations and the workforce and so on and so forth, and it kind of all blends together because when the Twin Towers got hit, no one truly cared about anything except for defending America and our rights and being patriots and so on and so forth, and now we're kind of all divided, unfortunately. So, I mean, it was a sad day. I was in third grade at the time. I honestly had no really sense of what was going on. Yeah, I remember, one thing I do remember is the teachers running to Mrs. Kunkel's room, and Mrs. Kunkel goes running out of the all stressed out because her son was actually in the Twin Towers that day, and he ended up actually being one of the unsung heroes because he knew what to do and knew how to evacuate the building and kind of help people get out and tried to rescue as many people as he could. I don't know if that was Steve. I don't know if that was her only son or not, but yeah, one of her sons. And so I remember her like running through the hallway as we're waiting for school, and she goes running through the hallway all like frantic and everything, and then Mrs. Myers pulling out a TV and turns on the TV, and it's literally like we're watching a movie. I had no clue what was going on, and then I got home and turned on the news, and I was literally watching the same exact movie over and over and over again on the same exact channels. And I could not understand why this movie kept playing. When you're a third grader in that scenario, you have no clue what goes on. And then later on, I don't know, it was probably a couple days or a week or so later, I finally understood what exactly happened that day, and it was crazy. Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was just one of those weird, I wouldn't say weird, but there's a lot of emotions that went on that day. And there's a lot of people that decided they were going to join the military after that and defend our country, and you saw numbers skyrocket in military because they wanted to do something about it.
They wanted revenge.
But yeah, that was that. That's my take on it, and it is just, like I said, a sad day in American history. Could we have prevented it? You can go on the whole conspiracy theory, whatever you want. You can go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, that's just my take on 9/11. So we're going to have a silent pause for everyone who was impacted on 9/11. And moving on to sports. As you all know, we're big Husker fans. So with that being said, is the Colorado and Husker game happened Saturday night. Nebraska won 28-10. Which I believe personally we could have won it a lot more than what we did because there's a bunch of penalties in the second half.
Yeah, I didn't watch the second half, so I don't know.
There was at least we scored like 3 or 4 more times and they all got called back due to a holding call. With that being said, is we at least still ended up winning. Shiloh Saunders, he was talking a whole bunch of crap at the coin toss, saying how they're going to kick our ass and roll us and all this other stuff. And then Shadir Saunders, his dad decided that he needed to leave 2 minutes left in the game to go get evaluated. I don't know what he got evaluated for, but I thought that was kind of stupid if you... Still to this day, if you don't know exactly what he got evaluated for, I think it was more he was frustrated. This is our very first, I wouldn't say very first, but this is our first 2-0 start since 2016. That was also Mike Riley's era. That was also the last time we went to a bowl game. So could this be our year that we're kind of starting off with a winning season and looking good? Don't know. This is also the first time that we are currently ranked at number 23, and we haven't been ranked in the top 25 since 2019, which I think that is actually really, really good. Our next opponent is Northern Iowa, Saturday night at 6:30 at Memorial Stadium. They are going to be a big challenge for us. They are pretty much a Big Ten team at an FCS level. They have a running back that is 230 pounds. They have a stout line. They like the ground and pound attack. They like options. They like all that. So this is going to be a true challenge for us, especially once we start getting into conference play with other teams that like to run the ball. Also, expect us to have a different game plan. We may not be completely throwing it in the air. We might be more conservative because we got to control the clock a little bit more too, because that's what they're going to try to do. Moving on to recruiting, Christian Jones. He is a linebacker out of Omaha West Side. He is 6'2", 215 pounds. He is a 4-star recruit. He is actually the number 1 recruit in the state of Nebraska right now. And I find this awesome because we got the number 1 recruit last year and our tight end, Carter Nelson. Yeah. And then we're keeping Nebraska boys at home, which is awesome. We had to beat out people we had to beat out schools like Oklahoma, Auburn, Boston College, Iowa, and USC. What really sold him on Nebraska was Saturday night. He was there at the Colorado game in the stands and saw what Nebraska was all about. I think a lot of it was the fact that being a hometown kid, you grew up, but you didn't know the exact direction that your hometown college was moving. And after what he saw on Saturday night, I think that really changed his perspective. He will be entering his senior year. Or like I said, he is a junior at Omaha West Side. He also plays wide receiver, so he had 20 catches for 500 yards and 9 touchdowns. He averaged 25 yards per reception. He had 9 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. I forget what FR stands for now because I'm having a brain fart. Forced recovery, I think, in his 13 games that he played. Moving on to volleyball. The Husker girls are 6-1. On September 10th, they beat number 9 Creighton 3-2. It was a thriller match, all through and through, edge of your seat. They packed the Bob Devaney with almost 9,000 people. The Bob Devaney holds roughly 8,300 people, so it was a sold out stadium. Tonight, as we are currently airing this, they're playing number 14 Arizona State.
Well, recording, not airing is at 8 o'clock.
Sorry, recording. As we are recording this, they're playing number 14 Arizona State. Moving on to the NFL. The Chiefs beat the Ravens 27-20. This was literally a game of inches. The Hollywood Brown is placed on IR and will undergo surgery because he got injured during training camp and hasn't fully recovered. A couple other interesting things is Tyreek Hill decided he was going to get arrested right before game day. The other thing is Caleb Williams did not live up to his hype as everyone expected him to. It was more the Bears defense is what won them that game. There's another. The Green Bay Packers, or not Green Bay Packers, the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Gosh dang it. Aaron Rodgers did not look very good Monday night. He had a lot of open receivers and completely missed up. And Jamar Chase turned down the Bengals gave him a big contract. It's like a 4-year contract. I don't remember what it was worth. But he turned it down, and then right after he turned down his contract, he said the Bengals are the team to beat this year. Which, why would you turn down a contract if you believe in that team so much?
Mm-hmm.
And then Justin Fields also started instead of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
That is your weekly recap in sports. If your team was not mentioned, I apologize. If you want your team mentioned, please.
Well, and there will be I plan on a video where we just go over like halfway through the season, where we just go through the whole NFL again, the whole 32 teams. So moving on,
I was gonna say, and I kind of rushed that too because we're trying to get time.
Yeah. Are you a hard worker? Do you feel like you're growing mentally, physically, spiritually? Even if you don't feel this way, we have the product for you. The whole collection of Fruitful 3 merch is out now. So go buy. We're not wearing any of the merch, but I have showed it before. And maybe I'll pop up, just random images because I still have those images on my computer.
Awesome. You would have more time than to wear your merch than I do because I literally just got off work and rushed over here.
Well, yeah, mine's clean now, so it's in the closet. It's waiting till it gets cooler outside. And also, I have an idea for limited time hoodies of backyard bullshit. I have the old logo, and I may or may not release it depending on if we can get 100 sales. If we can get 100 sales on the Fruitful 3 merch, I will put out the limited time. Also, if we sell 100 items, I will turn on the plant a tree tool that I have through the merch store. So if you want to be conscious about...
What is that for people like me who don't know?
That is that every time you buy a hoodie, we will we'll pay people to plant a tree. So every time a hoodie gets bought, you plant a tree. So if you are economically concerned about the environment, go buy some stuff. Get us to 100 items. So I think that's it. That's it for merch.
Okay.
All right. So segment 1, bro. Segment 1, the root of perception. So why does Gen Z get labeled as lazy? Why do you think that Gen Zs are labeled as lazy?
I honestly believe that it's a lot of social media.
Social media?
Not so much social media, but you have like the internet and you have all these other apps and all this other stuff where back in the day you literally had to crawl out of bed, get up, go to work. It was more physical labor back in the day.
You also didn't have much for TV shows or gaming.
Yeah. So media, that's the word I'm looking for, not
media, entertainment. That type of stuff. A lot of it comes down to misunderstandings about how they approach work. Back in the day, people followed a linear path. You were an apprentice. You learned to trade over a course of 5 to 10 years, and then you'd either climb the charts in the company, or you started your own business. You'd leave or you'd take over the business. Another thing to add to this is patience. Yeah. A lot of people don't have much patience anymore. So going back to that apprenticeship one is
a lot of people were a lot more willing to teach you and train you, and now they expect you like 6 months to a year to know everything and out.
Yeah. It's like you get 2 weeks of training and there you go. You're out, you're in the open,
They throw you into a line of fire.
Gen Z doesn't see the point of being locked into a job for decades. They want freedom. Instead of being tied down, they prefer working for themselves, escaping the system, which they're tired of paying into things like Social Security, which many believe won't be there when they retire anyway. Also, I thought of this. If every poor person or Gen Z or, whatever, if everybody would just quit, everything would fall onto the rich people. All the consequences would fall onto the rich people. And then the rich people would be broke because guess what? No one's working for them. So
moving on to job interviews. There has recently been a study that came out, like big corporate America, and they interviewed a lot of CEOs on like Gen Z and millennials, more towards the Gen Z, and why they weren't hiring Gen Zs. Well, the study came out, and majority of the CEOs and the business owners and stuff came out and said that they don't dress properly. They show up in basically pajamas and slippers. Was a big one.
You got to do what you got to do.
So the one, they don't look presentable for the job. 2, they cuss during the interview. If they don't turn their phones on silent, if their phone goes off, they tell them that they got to pause the interview and take this phone call, or they got to text this person back. The other, gosh dang it, what was the other one? I literally just read this the other day.
That's why I tell you to take notes, bro.
I know. And I literally just talked to Harvey with this today, so I figured I was good at work.
No, you got to write stuff down, bro.
But yeah, it's little stuff like that where they don't, I don't remember what the other one was, but it's stuff like that where if you go to a job and you don't look presentable for the job, I mean, I can understand, like, if you're going to a trades job, if you say you wear a nice t-shirt or a nice pair of jeans, wear something clean at least, and at least look presentable, like clean cut or shaven, or at least like trim up and comb your hair. And
I always trim. I always button up, and I wear khakis most of the time.
I mean, like, and that's like, I mean, even if that's like an office job, like wear something presentable, like khakis or a button-up shirt or something for an office job. Make yourself
look presentable.
I mean, even if you go to work and you got an office job and you wear t-shirts and jeans to your office job, at least that interview shows, hey, I at least care. The other one is it all goes back to that, be presentable. If you're cussing during interviews, it's gonna look immature. The other thing is like, you're not going to, if you're going to talk to your boss that way, how are you going to talk to a customer? Mm-hmm. And that's the number one thing for a boss, is a boss or any, I don't really know if I want to use the word boss, but anybody in a leadership role like that. I mean, there's a difference between a boss and a leader, and we can get on that topic another day. But any employers out there is looking for somebody professional. And if you're going to cuss to your boss or your higher ups, what are you going to do to a customer? And if you're going to do that to a customer, you're going to lose them business. That's the next thing. The other thing is, if you can't stay focused on a task, like if your phone, like say your phone rings, like first of all, it goes back to being presentable. Like, turn your phone off for an interview. The interview is the important part. Text your friends, if say you're married and have kids, like say, hey, this is I just got to my interview, I'm turning my phone off. I'll call you after I'm done to let you know how it goes.
I'm also mentioning that, why are we so scatterbrained? Do you know, Levi? Do you know? We talked about this before.
Yeah?
Yeah, last year on the old podcast. It goes back to, guess what?
dies.
Well, no, I was actually going to say the school system.
Oh,
I mean, you're also right there. Food is poison because cigarette companies bought the food and they made it more addictive. But school systems, because you got an hour and then the bell rings, an hour and then the bell rings, an hour and the bell rings. So you're losing your focus, even though it was made so you could,
So are you telling me a block schedule is actually better?
probably.
Because it's like 3 hours per class.
Probably. I mean, the whole educational system was meant for us to become workers for a factory. So when the bell rings, oh, that's lunchtime. You work and lunchtime, work, and then go home. Or you work, break, work, lunch, work, break, work, go home. So with the entrance of social media and the lack of focus of the school system, just collided with each other because social media has a whole different, well, it's basically the same thing with the school system. It's trying to use it to control you, but then it collides with each other. So now the workflow or the workforce is now.
With that being said, I was having a conversation with a soldier the other day, or this was actually a few months ago, I should say.
Mm.
But he was saying that he cannot physically sit through a full movie anymore because he's gotten so used to watching clips off of TikTok and little 15-second clips here and there. He cannot physically sit through a full movie anymore, which is really, to me, that's really sad because unfortunately, that's what TikTok's done is you can watch a little 15-second, whatever, 3-minute, I don't know, 15-second to 3-minute videos or whatever the time frame.
Oh, they're 60 minutes now.
Oh, they're 60 minutes?
Yeah, you can have a whole hour, I guess.
Oh, I don't know. I knew when it first came out, a few years ago, it was
6 seconds.
It was maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then I know they raised them to 2 minutes or 3 or something. But yeah.
So speaking on that behalf, Gen Z is prioritizing mental health and work-life balance. They don't want to burn out working 40 to 60 hours a week like previous generations. Output matters more than clocking hours. But guess what? They're still they're incredible results, still producing incredible. But I meant, mental health and work-life balance. If you're focusing on social media, your mental health goes down. Studies have proven that. If your work-life balance goes to crap, yeah, we don't want to work 40 to 60 hours a week anymore because we'd rather have time going home and spending time with fam.
So I can officially say this as a father. I would rather spend time with my family than go to work. But I can tell you when I was single, I would totally rather, I enjoyed going to work. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still enjoy going to work. There's a difference between singlehood and being single and parenthood. I think it's a maturity thing where you start to prioritize things. Mm-hmm. And when you, as a father, when you start to realize that you're working 40, 60 plus whatever hours a week, you realize you're not really spending that time with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole nother topic too. But I think a lot of it goes back to the school system and the government. The government's trying to, nowadays, I think a lot of it too is social media, because you don't know what to believe on social media anymore. You can watch a 1-minute clip on TikTok, let's just say bashing Donald Trump, and next thing you know, they're going to start bashing Donald Trump, or vice versa. It could be Kamala Harris or Joe Biden.
It's divided in the country more.
Yeah. So,
but we can save that for the political talk.
Yeah.
That we have planned.
What I'm saying is it comes down to that too. Is I think a lot of it is priorities with generations too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it too is government is getting more involved than what they should.
Yeah.
As well.
Governments became more entertainment. So on a positive note, and the job market isn't what it used to be. Many Gen Zers, despite having the qualifications on their resumes, there's your resumes, buddy, find it hard to land good jobs because they're judged for their age, not their skills. Boomers controlled the economy for so long, but now Gen Z is saying enough is enough. I would like to mention this because as I lived in New York, applying for multiple jobs, like I went through the interviews, and once they asked me my age, it was over, bro. Like, I was killing that interview. And they're like, man, you know so much because my resume has everything that I have done. I told the truth, may have stretched it a little bit, but it's the truth. It's what I have done. And they would just, once they found out my age, the interview was over.
And unfortunately, that's not the way it's supposed to. I mean, I don't care about age. Like, if I was an employer, I wouldn't care about age as long. Now, like the facts that I was, like that study that I was telling you about earlier, if I had a kid that came in there and acted like that, well, first, if you walked in like pajamas and slippers, I would start questioning the interview right there and then.
Yeah, but if you say the words like, I'm willing to learn, then you know what? Hey, once you prove yourself wrong, you're kicked. But if you prove yourself right, I will try to help you get a raise as soon as possible. Like, if you can do good work and stuff.
And that's speaking of raises, that's a whole nother topic, but technically raises are keeping people poor now.
That's also true because you want a raise, so they raise it 4%, and then guess what? Everything else raises 4%. And so guess what? You are in the same boat you were before. So
that's why I says I think government's getting more involved in what they should.
So let's hold on. Since you brought that up again, I was gonna just ditch it, but since you brought that up, so 1913, right? The Wilson administration passed the Federal Reserve Act, September of 1913, after the 1907 crash of the stocks, and they were like, "Yo, we need to have more control over this because the stocks."
And I know where this is going.
Yeah, you do know where this is going.
Because temporary fixes should not be a permanent.
Exactly. And so what happened was they had a meeting, and they're like, oh, yeah, we should create a central bank, which, fun fact, Thomas Jefferson, because they had this debate while they're signing the Constitution, and Thomas Jefferson was like, I feel like if we have a central bank, that would take away from our liberty. Well, fast forward to 1913, Wilson was like, yeah, we need it. Everybody else wanted it, so they took it. It was an unanimous vote by the Democrats and hard no by the Republicans, if you want to know, because I was reading about this. And that gave them the right to create a central bank, gave them the right to the money so they could print money. And that's where inflation took away our right to veto, because before then we were able to vote on everything. And if we didn't like something, we could veto it. But now we have no rights because the government has more rights. They did it all to prevent financial crisis, yet we had the Great Depression in the 1930s, and we had the 70s, and now we have we had 2008, the house market crash, and now we have again, possibly, because Warren Buffett has like $2 billion in cash right now because he's selling all his stocks. And Warren Buffett, if you know anything about his tracking him, he never says much about the market. He just makes moves. So if you watch him pulling out cash, oh crap, there's a crash coming. So
the other thing is, didn't FDR do something too? That can be another topic.
Yeah, I don't know what FDR.
Yeah, there's several temporary fixes in American history, and you can go and do your research if you want to.
Yeah.
But there were several temporary fixes in our American history that ended up being permanent, which led to
Social Security, like up there. Social Security wasn't going to be permanent. It was temporary.
Yeah, that's the biggest lie.
And now they're taking all the money out of Social Security to go pay for wars overseas. That has nothing to do with us. But that's for politics in October. because we got to do it before the election.
November 5th is the election?
I don't know. I don't care. Let's dive into the economics, which we've kind of already talked about because I didn't realize this was my section. Gen Z is facing some real challenges: rising student debt, inflated housing costs, and a job market that just doesn't seem stable anymore. What was once a clear path to success, go to school, get a job, work hard, isn't working for them. Or for me, since I'm Gen Z.
I'm a millennial. I don't know how to exactly classify my generation, but I can say coming from a rural small town in Nebraska, if anybody grew up in rural America during the millennial age, you are probably one of the last of a dying breed, honestly. Because you got the old 80s school way where streetlights came on and you came home, and you also saw the evolution of technology take over.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say anybody in that range is a transitional generation. There we go. That's it.
Yeah. Drew, and we have, I don't know why I said Drew. Drew, and we have I cannot read.
Environmental concerns too. Gen Z is passionate about climate change, sustainability, and equality. They see previous generations' policies as contributing to these problems, and they want change. That's why you'll see them moving away from companies that don't align with their values.
Well, we have that for the merch, sustainability.
Yeah.
I also have a different project, but I ain't going to reveal that till later.
The other thing is, you look at previous generations and their policies. Honestly, what you need to do, to me, if you're Gen Z and like I did this as a millennial too, because I don't know, history kind of, I'm not like one of those history buffs, but history intrigues me. In other words, so I do a lot of research on different generations and try to figure out where things possibly went wrong or what things went right. And I think a lot of it is you need to study what they did and what made them work. And I understand it's different times and so on and so forth, but you don't just go and claim that they're... A lot of it is, I've noticed a lot of Gen Zs can't figure out why like say baby boomers are so hard on them, or they constantly criticize everything they do, or they push them. But if you look at back in the day, that was how they were. That was
how they were raised.
That was you were raised to be a man. You were raised like, hey, you're a man. You got to work hard. You got to provide for your family. And that was that time. And there are some people out there who still have that mentality, still have that view. I mean, even throughout generations, there are people like that. But nowadays, you have, with like the growth of social media and all this other stuff, you have the opportunity. I don't know if I want opportunity or different options out there. This is going to get a little political in a sense, but like you can choose your gender. You can choose if you're a cat or a dog or whatever. And I think a lot of it is priorities have changed too. And that's part of like, you gotta look at kind of like you gotta do a self-evaluation on yourself, in other words. And that goes back to like the policies is different times.
We also want to take care of our environment. I mean, not all the stuff that they say is environmentally friendly is actually environmentally friendly, but it goes back to the Bible saying that we should take care of the earth.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Mental health is we're just trying to get better at everything. I think some mental health is BS, but others, it's good for you.
So, and that's what I'm saying is like go through and don't just believe what you see on social media. Go through, do your actual history, because
and like study, like do your own, instead of doing research, instead of just watching the clip and believing it, actually go and do a a sample. What is the science? Not studying. You actually are doing the trial and error. You're trialing and erroring everything.
I like to the old thing too is, like I said, I'm not trying to get political here, but also on policies is recently we had a debate go down between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And I've noticed those two both have different policies, different viewpoints, different this, and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to sit here and bash one or bash the other, but I can tell you that during that debate, the interviewers seemed more one-sided than they should be. So with that being said, is when you talk about policies and Gen Z or your younger generations, even some of your millennials, they're going to see that and say, oh, hey, these reporters are pushing these policies. These are probably policies that are correct. And it forces you to believe something that may or may not be good for future generations.
Yeah, well, going off of that, which is probably more political, but like news anchors have more of a say of their beliefs than back in the old days when they just spit off the facts. They had the facts. They actually got to have a whole paragraph or a whole segment on what they believe is right and wrong. Bridging the generational gap. Gen Z has inherited some tough circumstances, but they're not shying away from the challenge. If older generation farmer, politicians, you name it, are complaining they don't have enough land or resources, it's time to pass the torch. Gen Z is ready to innovate and grow, but they need a seat at the table. So this is actually...
I was gonna say what?
This was actually my writing. This was late at night. This is not how I meant it.
I was gonna say, explain yourself.
I will explain
because I can go into a topic here, but
okay. So for me, like I wanna kick off. I wanna go start doing stuff, right? Like, and everything. But the thing is with the boomers. This is how it all started. Was with the boomers having a problem with the boomers, because the boomers are the problems of the Gen Zs, is what they say, So what it is like, for example, farmers, right? Like the old farmers, they're like 50, right? And they're like, oh, I need more land, blah, 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 because they're not making enough money. Well, obviously you failed at being a farmer if you're not making enough money off the land that you have, because God will provide in the land that you have. So obviously there's government policies there too. So I think it's letting the young people, apprenticeships, like our uncle has the apprentice Cameron, and he's kind of slowly just giving the farm over to Cameron.
Yeah, well, there's a reason it's called No Sweat Farms too. So,
yeah, but he's ready to retire, and so he's passing on the torch, knowing that it's time for the newer generation.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like if you are struggling, like sell your stuff, Joe. Go live in a city. I know you want the farm life, but plant a little garden and live in a little garden. Go live in the city in a retirement home. I don't care, whatever you want to go. And I have more notes. I'm blanking right now.
The other thing too is we have another uncle, and he just recently learned that farming isn't as
profitable as it used to be.
Exactly. And
which is hold on, I want to say one more thing, because I forgot to add this in my notes. It's because the old generation follows a system, where Gen Zs, they're kind of following politics and stuff, whatever they watch on TikTok. But they're actually they have some value of not being in a system, because they're trying to break away from the government and all this other stuff. So that can end up being more fruitful for them and everything else. And whether it's right or it's wrong, but giving the chance for the young ones to.
The other thing too is, I'm not trying to get on a different topic here, but you were talking about farming and everything. There is so much more diseases out there. There's so much more just in general, like bugs. And I mean, when you first started off, you didn't really have, like, when you first started farming, yeah, I understand you had like weed control and bug control and stuff like that, but when you first started that compared to now, you have a bunch of resistance built up in immune systems, and now it's getting harder and harder to control a lot of that to actually get really good yields.
Well, and also a lot of diseases are actually produced by the man-made chemicals that we spray on the crops, like folic acid, which is actually really bad for you. There's other chemicals, so not all chemicals were good, you know.
Yeah.
And there's natural chemicals that will do a better job because, you know, that's what they're actually meant for. Yeah. And also, we kind of do farming kind of stupidly, as we only plant one crop in a field, in a whole field, instead of multiple crops, which would help actually produce more yield. Yes, it'd take more room, but it would produce more yield.
Or you know how much easier it is to spray like 80 acres compared to like 10 acre patches. I'm saying there are still farmers out there that believe in the old system, and they cut their sections up or cut their fields up, and they plant like 10 acres of beans, 10 acres of corn, 10 acres of wheat.
It's exactly how I do it. I don't care. I'll get in that tractor and harvest. Like, yeah, this is the life, bro. So older generation holding on to our land power. Oh, also that was another thing I had written down somewhere, was like politics is we need young people in politics, because we got a bunch of old people.
Truth is, this is not trying to get into the whole politics topic, but
I know it's kind of hard.
But it's kind of hard because politics has a big
has now entered the chat, as they say in my generation.
Yeah. Politics have kind of changed a lot of the dynamic, like government policies, I should say, has changed a lot of policies and how things are supposed to be ran, and government is getting more and more power, and the people don't have much of that power now. Where was I going with that whole thing before I went on that rant?
Something about older generations holding on to land power and traditional values is a part of the problem. Instead of hoarding, they should be preparing the next generation to take over. Z's has ideas.
So going back to the whole land thing, right? So yes, you can pass land down from generation to generation to generation, because a lot of farmers do that. The one thing that I've noticed a lot around here is wind farms. And wind farms are definitely not the way of the future. And there are a lot of, no offense, there's a lot of Gen Z people who see it as energy, but they don't do the actual research behind it to realize that it takes more fossil fuel. Plus, if you're taking up people's farmland, they can't
produce that much food.
So they can't produce food. The other thing too is, around here we have wind farms, and they don't move very much.
Yeah, they half of them are broken within a week.
Yeah, and then they don't get fixed, and then they sit there. So you have all this land with thousands of machinery and equipment and everything, and millions of dollars. I don't know how much they actually cost, but yeah, it's probably somewhere in the millions.
It's a lot of money. I'll just tell you that much.
So you're originally taking this land and taking it away from the farmers to profit off of. And the sad part is, with the whole thing, is the wind towers around here, that the so little energy they call, is going to places like California or New York. So why are you in rural Nebraska planting wind farms and you're not even supplying the power back to the people. Now, that would be where I would start, is if you want wind farms, fine. If you want like solar panel farms, so on and so forth, I don't really care where you...
There's a cool thing. I was watching a video on this last year. It's actually solar panel farming, but your solar panels are up here and your crops are down below, and it rotates. Well, as the sun rotates, the panels rotate, and that gives the sun to each section of the field too. And so you're producing energy while growing food still, which is beneficial.
Yeah. But my problem is when you take all this farmland and you put government ideas on them to power your big cities.
Yeah.
Like go take acres over in California, go buy some like orange farmland, I don't care. But go or take a horrible suburb that looks horrible and start putting up wind farm or solar panels there and produce it for your own.
Go to the mountains.
Fine.
Where it's windy. It's always windy in the mountains.
But you get what I'm saying, though, is it's like, if you're going to plant that there, produce it for your own state. Or at least the own area. If you have enough for your own state and you can provide something, like for us, if you could provide power to Kansas or Iowa or Colorado or South Dakota or Wyoming, because they're neighboring states, if you can do that, more power to you. But that's where I would start.
Yeah. Gen Z has ideas to solve today's problem, but they're often dismissed. That kind of ties into the interview thingy where they deny you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've had some ideas and I've got denied. What happens? Life goes on. And it's kind of funny because some of my ideas actually work. They work. So, cool. Okay, anyway. Gen Z is forming unions using technology to their advantage, TikTok, and looking forward for ways to live life on their terms, whether that's through traveling, remote work, or starting a business. They're redefining success in a way that prioritizes happiness, purpose, and freedom over making money.
Okay, so going back to the whole starting business thing, right? So we briefed on this earlier in the topic about how go to school, get a job, like internship, apprenticeship, whatever, and then eventually after so long you start your own business. With that being said, we also talked about like money and pay raises and so on and so forth. So with starting your own business, it's a lot harder to start your own business today than say 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you could probably have $100 to your name
and start a business
and be able to start a business and make it grow.
You have to have 100,000.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in high school, it's 100,000.
Yeah.
So it's probably more now because inflation. Also, with going through traveling, remote work, doing technology, that gives us more time of fulfilling like our purposes in life, because even though, yes, God did make as punishment for eating the forbidden fruit, he made Adam work the land and every other man or people that claim to be men, they have to work the land.
So keep on that topic, but I got a point to make.
You want to write it down? I don't know how long I'm gonna go, but gosh, now I'm I was on a roll. I was on a mission,
okay,
bro.
Fine, we'll get you back on your roll. But you're talking about Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
So I find it, and we're talking about technology nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find it really, really funny that Eve took a bite out of an apple.
And you got an Apple phone, and guess what their logo is?
Yeah,
I know. That's why I don't own an Apple.
I don't own an Apple. Yeah. Technically, the company that I work for owns an Apple phone, not me. There's a difference.
In your possession.
And see how much information they can hijack from that. Very, very little.
Less. That acts more than this. Even though that is, the government can go through it, it's still more safer. Because I can go on.
And by the way, I don't have an Apple phone with me right now. It's probably in a truck.
Yeah. Good deal. Because no Apple's allowed in this room. Don't want none of that. Okay, anyway, I remember where I was going. Because I was going on purpose. fulfillment, fruitfulness. So Adam and Eve, yes, they have to work the land. That's punishment. Well, Eve, her punishment was getting pregnant and pain during labor as her punishment and having to raise the kid and everything like that. But fulfillment and purpose is what, talks about in the Bible, which, going to work, depending on what you do, if you like doing what you do, then that is fulfillment for your soul. But if you don't like doing what you do, then you might as well just go and take the risk and start pursuing your purposes that you truly like to do. And that will bring fulfillment and fruitfulness and keep the Lord first. And that's how you get the fruitfulness. But if you do your own thing, you get your fulfillment. Oh my goodness. And then you put God first, you get your fruitfulness.
Did you forget to eat your Wheaties today? Or do you have Fruit Loops and you're a little fruity?
I cannot speak today. That is fine. I will get through this.
We're almost there, buddy. We're on the last stretch.
So we're literally at the outro. So do you have anything else you want to add to this topic? Because we are literally at the outro.
Not really. It's just, like I said, it's like, I'll just make an emphasis on this, but go and do your research on a lot of different eras, different times, different government policies, so on and so forth.
And trial and error. Go test it. That's the word. Go test it, Go test your theories. Go test what other people's theories are. That's what I do, like with nutrition and stuff. Is because they're like, oh, you can't eat this because it's bad. Oh, you can't eat this because it's good. I do test on it. Like, I'll put it in my diet for a week, and if I see something like bad in my system, I'm like, nah, that's not for me. So I take it back out. I have perfected my nutrition. Well, at this point in my time, I can still perfect more. But anyway. You got anything else, Dad, other than test research? And
we have
gone everywhere. We had notes. We were still scattered.
You just have so much. To me, you just have so much more access to everything nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I can personally speak from experience on this, since we're kind of on this topic. Back in high school, I did a paper on, I don't remember what it was on, but I think it was Walt Cortson had a 1950s, 1960s history book, and I did my paper according to how that 1950s book, and I was told that I had misinformation, and I said, okay, so, and then the next day I brought in the book, and I laid it on the table, and I said, this is where I got all my information, how is this wrong? And they just the teacher gave me a jaw drop look, like they didn't know what to say, because it's not what they were taught. That's not they
were taught the book that they were taught, and then they brought it to the school to teach the book that they were taught.
So that's what I'm saying, is we have so much more access to everything, and everybody. I mean, for an example like that, is you can. If, say, in 1950s, 1960s, I don't remember the exact year of the book, but if you take that and you can go 40 years later and it's already changed. I mean, I was in high school, so now it would 50 years later probably in high school. But you take that and how much that changed, what are you going to find on the internet that's already been changed to? I mean, that's...
And sometimes, I when I was doing my research on this, I will admit I went to the dark web. I did, just to see the other side of what was missing, because I use Google, but Google, they have their money invested in other companies companies invest in them, so they put priorities first. So sometimes you got to go to the dark web to split the difference, so
that'd be my other piece of advice, is be very, very careful what you be very, very careful what you read on the internet, because any like it says, with having access at our fingertips, I think that's a lot of the problems with generations too. Is back in the day, you didn't have that type of access. You actually had to go to, say, a library, or you had to go somewhere where they had like a newspaper, something to actually find information. Unless, of course, you just wanted local gossip, and then it was just the barber shop or the local cafe.
Man. So, well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Fruitful Three Show, where we talked about, well, scattered brain, jobs, and Gen Zs, and a little bit about politics. So if you enjoyed this, which we'll make sure to become better next time instead of so scattered brain, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Let's keep busting these myths together, you know. I don't know why that's in there. Well, because I guess the next one is AI that we're going into. I know I haven't told you that, but we're going into AI now.
Okay.
So if you are excited to watch AI, well, that'll be next week.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook's probably in there for more behind the scenes content and clips from today's episode. Wait, we just talked about all this stuff. Now we're using it?
Yeah, I post every day.
Crazy, bro.
We actually don't have TikTok anymore. For some reason, there was a glitch, and it wouldn't let me upload. I uploaded one video, and I tried to upload every single day, and the glitch kept saying, "Oh, network error." And I looked up manifolds of how to fix it. None of it worked. So I just got rid of it. And yes, Facebook, because, you know, we got Facebook, but no one follows us on Facebook.
Not really.
Instagram is the most successful, and YouTube is the most successful. Instagram and YouTube's the most successful. So we'll catch you next time, where we dig into AI and challenges of AI. So stay fruitful, y'all. Peace, love, happiness, and unity.
And this is... Woo!